limbs from all this tangling going on. You could actually have that happen to your dog where they get tangled up in their own leash or another dog does and things get snapped. You can end up getting dragged around and getting bruised up and scraped up. So just without even snapping the cord, you can have some serious damage happening because 26 feet of thin line is a lot to pay attention to. If you're not even paying attention to other dogs coming your direction, the likelihood of you paying attention to all 26 feet of that long line is pretty slim. So it all can happen in a split second, especially when you got constant tension pulling it back into the gear work and then another tension pulling it out. It's really easy to have some tight snapping. I mean, this is how we start fires. You take a cord and some wood and you snap that back and forth. Well, imagine that's with your dog's paw or with your pinky or your hair or whatever. That's going to cause some serious damage. And that's just not really the purpose of a leash or a walk, quite honestly, is be amputating things. So that's another issue. So you may think that, oh, well, I have control. My dog's not big enough to pull on this. You're not really out of the woods in terms of danger when it comes to retractable leashes and what that thin little cord can do. So just another one of those lovely physics things that'll tell you maybe you shouldn't use those things. Number 5. Running out of leash on a lunge can lead to neck and spine injuries for the dog. So let's just focus on the dog for a moment. If you've got a dog who's going to rush off and you're not controlling that line and you don't have verbal control of your dog, then what you're going to do is you're risking the dog actually hitting really hard in terms of inertia against the tightness of that cord. And because it's such a thin pinpoint, you might actually cause the dog to, hurt their trachea or rip their spine out of line, especially if you have a very long neck dog or long body dog. So all of those things are situations where you just gotta. I don't understand putting the dog under risk for that kind of situation. When you have just a straight 6-foot line, then you aren't going to have this momentum of 26 feet. You have 6 feet maximum for the dog to rush off. And in that case, the inertia, the momentum is much less and less likely to cause damage. So it's really kind of like, having a shorter lever on the dog if you're talking about physical control, and therefore you're dealing with, less of a likelihood of putting something out of alignment on the dog. So this is, and again, this is coming from Dr. Karen Becker, who kind of deals with this stuff, injuries and things. So just keep that in mind. All right, number 6, sends the wrong signals to other dogs. Retractable leashes allow dogs more freedom to pull in front of them, and then that makes them look aggressive. And I will add, they are being aggressive to other dogs, which will cause other dogs to react. So, and then your dog reacts to their smell and their presence and their behavior, and then they react to it and become more aggressive. So they start socializing with other dogs in an aggressive way, just by the fact that they are pulling and yanking and jerking around. Sounds really nasty. And they're smelling horrible and their heads are lowered and they're trying to dig against you, and they look like they're trying to attack the other dog. Even if their intent is to be very friendly, that's aggression. And so you're not only teaching your dog to be aggressive, but you're also encouraging other dogs to react aggressively. And think about the other owner who maybe is trying to work with their dog who is aggressive, and you are inciting a fight with the fact that you have your dog out in front pulling and yanking. So this is a big, big problem. And this leads us to number 7. Retractable leashes are especially bad for dogs who haven't been trained to walk politely on a regular leash. This will undo what you want, okay? It teaches them to pull on leash. It doesn't help them become better. It helps them become worse. This is why I hate that whole harness and leash combination, because people think, well, I'll deal with the spine injury and the neck possibilities by putting a harness on your dog. Well, now you're inspiring your dog to be a complete jackass. to pull and yank and not listen to you and completely just disconnect from the reconnaissance mission as a pack. So you are teaching your dog to be an aggressive, yappy jackass on the street, which is not training, which is really more abusive than it is helpful for your dog. It means you're being lazy. And I really have a hard time with that. I mean, if someone comes to me and they have the leash and they're asking me questions, I'm not going to put you down. But the reality is that if you keep insisting on doing this, you are training your dog to be a jackass and to not feel safe or stable on the walk. Your job is, as a reconnaissance mission captain, is to check out the environment on your initiation, not theirs, and to make sure that you protect the pack. And you're completely failing on both ends. So, this is completely against training, against the nature of the dog, against the purpose of having a relationship with your dog, and misusing the leash, no matter what kind of leash you have. All right, moving on. Number 8. Handling the handle is tenuous. And let me explain this to you. That bulky handle that the retractable leash comes with, that big old, that sucker is a pain in the arse. I mean, you're dealing with something that's fully requiring you to stiffen up your entire arm. You can never drop your arm and relax it the way you should when you're walking on a dog. You're always flexed. You always at least have, your biceps and your triceps and your forearm always contracted, even if your dog's not pulling against you, because of the fact that you're holding your handle like that. And then it's weighty. So it can be easily ripped out of your hand if you're not paying attention, because it does fit nicely in your finger, but also rolls nicely out of your fingers, and that can cause you a lot of trouble. I mean, the deal is that you lose control of that leash, lose the end of it, and now you've lost control of your dog, because if it came out of your hand, most likely it was because the dog was lunging or darting towards something. So here's leading on to number 9. Dropping the handle can create phobias. And let me explain this. I think that Dr. Becker explained it the best, so I'm going to probably just mostly read what she wrote, because I can't really say it any better than this. I think it's also true for dropping those poop bag holders on the end of the leash. I know everybody wants to put it on the end of the leash, but I found that those things knock dogs in the head more often, or hit on the ground next to them and spook them out. I mean, if you all know, I've got Rambo, so he's afraid of a leaf falling next to him, let alone a poop bag holder, that clunks and all that. So I find those kind of, I rather hook them to my belt loop or something like that than put them on the leash, because it just kind of creates issue. If your dog's completely well trained and you never have to use corrections or do any sharp turns or anything, then that's acceptable. But if your dog's still training to actually learn to walk properly on the leash, probably not a good idea to put that on the end of the leash until much later. So, okay, back to where I was saying dropping the handle can create phobias. Okay, just quoting from Dr. Becker, because she really said it very well. Many dogs, especially fearful ones, are terrorized by the sound of a dropped retractable leash handle and may take off running, which is dangerous enough. To make matters worse, the object of the poor dog's fear is then chasing her or him, and if the leash is retracting as she runs, the handle is gaining ground on her. She or he cannot escape it. So this intensifies their fear. Even if this scenario ultimately ends without physical harm to the dog or anyone else, it can create lingering fear in the dog, not only of leashes, but also of being walked, period. Or whatever they happen to be looking at when they were running, while they were hearing and feeling this thing chasing behind them. So I really think it's important that you kind of take that into consideration. What if? At least if I drop just a flat leash, I can stomp on it real quick. It didn't make a lot of noise. It didn't cause a lot of trouble, and it was easy for me to grab. It's much harder to step on those plastic retractable leashes without them crushing or breaking or slipping out from under my foot because I didn't quite aim, or I hit the cord or whatever. I actually have stepped on the cord, and then the retractable leash handle slapped into my foot. I was wearing a sandal, and that didn't feel good, so I almost lost control that way. So finally, number 10, moving parts break down. So the more moving parts you have, I mean, they can be cool and everything, the more likely that things will fall apart, and they will fall apart when you don't need them to. Okay, when you least need them to, when they're being tested, when they're being pulled and yanked and the gears are being worked against, that's when it's going to snap on you, and that's when it's really dangerous to start playing that game with the retractable leash. So the less you have in terms of mechanics to operate while you're walking your dog, so you can focus on your environment, checking out the situation, making sure your dog is distracted towards you and not distracted outside of you. You're protecting the pack and the pack space. The more you can focus on that, the better. Personally, the whole using of the handle, and Dr. Becker says the same thing, that unless your dog is completely well trained, the only time I would see using retractable leash is if you're hiking and you have a perfect recall verbally. And this is the way you're supposed to use them if you aren't to destroy your dog's training. You are supposed to let out the leash and bring it back in with no tension. So you have to constantly move them back and forth with a little bit of slack in there, constantly watching how far the dog is walking ahead, and then you need to call your dog back if they're going to start walking far enough away that it causes the leash to tighten. Do you understand what I'm saying? You have to constantly have slack. So you have to release and let go. Release and lock up. Release and lock up. Release and lock up. Let them pull, release and lock up constantly. There is no faster way to get carpal tunnel than to mess with those things to do it properly. There's just no faster way. My hands cramped up so freaking fast when I had Cassie and I used a retractable leash for hiking. It wasn't worth it anymore. It just wasn't worth it. So I know it's nice not to have to loop it all up in your hand, but honestly, it was not worth the effort to have this extra length. I'd rather just have a 20-foot cotton line and just deal with just bring it in with my hands, because that was less painful and less tension-filled than having the retractable leash. So if you actually have your dog already trained on verbal command, you can send them 20, 30 feet away and then bring them back on one word, one time, without asking over and over, in a distracting area, then you can consider playing with that. But personally, I'd rather keep my forearms matching and not one have bigger than the other and be completely sore and worn out and have to have Aspercream rubbed on myself, So I know I'm old and all that, but I don't want you getting older than you have to be. Ultimately, I find that the whole retractable leash concept is just not worth the money you're spending on it. If you want a little flashlight, get a nice little LED flashlight to put on your poop bag, to put on a carabiner, to hang on your belt loop or something. But I don't really think it's worth getting the retractable leashes at all. It's just, unless you want to increase drive and increase aggression in your dog and you're just that lazy, okay, go ahead, but I give you absolutely no kudos for that. And that's not what your dog needs. Your dog needs you to have them right next to them so you can work together through distractions and protect the pack. So, again, avoid using these retractable leashes, and remember what your whole purpose is. Reconnaissance mission. You're in charge of that. No peeing, pooping, sniffing, or visiting without your permission. So you need to have your dog in your proximity and focused on you, as well as paying attention to distractions. And you're supposed to protect the pack. So make sure your dog's within range of you so that you can actually stop some crazy dog from attacking your dog, or some obnoxious kid coming over and slapping them, like that's happened to Rambo. That kind of thing. Protect them from all the skateboarders, all that good stuff, and protect them from themselves, like eating weird stuff off the ground. That'd be good. So that's my assessment of retractable leashes. And if you have a retractable leash with a harness, burn the sucker. Don't even give it away. Just burn it, or throw it away, or chop it up and make artwork out of it. It's not worth it. Train your dog. Don't teach them to be the exact opposite of what you really need or want or what they need. All right, so that's the end of that. Now, once again, last chance for group classes this year is this Saturday and Sunday. So go to bluecollarworkingdog.com. Shortly afterwards, in the next 3 to 4 weeks, I will have next year's schedule, or at least the first quarter, up, so that you can see what's going on and check out for other training. We're going to have nose work back again and all that stuff, not taught by me, so you can take a break from me. And check out KazziDogTraining.com, Kazzi, dogtraining.com. And until next week, be good to your dogs by loving them, allowing them to serve you. To love is to serve, so give them the ways every day to serve you and serve them well in return. Talk to you later. Bye.